Hello, everybody. Today we're starting out topic one. We're in section one of topic one, and today we're going to talk about adding, subtracting, and multiplying decimals. That sounds like a lot to do in one day, but you're going to see that all of this is pretty easy. In fact, adding and subtracting decimals, we basically follow the same rules for both of them, and then we treat them the same way that we've done adding and subtracting problems when we were working with whole numbers. So if you look at the top here, you'll see it says to add and subtract. Always line up the decimal points. Okay, we need to always line up the decimal points. Add zeros when there are blank spaces in the columns. I'm going to try to shrink down my pen size here and see if this works. It might not have worked. But look at this problem here. I have 5.82 plus 3.5. Now, the first thing I want to do is stack these numbers. They'll be much easier to add if I stack the numbers. And it's also very important that we write neatly, and you must show all of your work. So I'll write down 5.82. And then underneath that, I'm going to write 3.5. Now remember, it says always line up the decimal points. So 3 goes here under the 5, and then here's my decimal point, and here's the 5. 3.5. I'm adding these together. I'll put a line underneath it here, and that's how it should look on your paper when you show your work. Now, there's one more thing I want to point out here. We have 3 and 5/10, but we don't have any digits in the hundredths place here. The number up here does have the hundredths place. There's a 2 shown in the hundredths place. So what you need to do is add zeros when there are blank spaces in the columns. So 3 and 5/10, I can add a 0 here. And now it says 3 and 50 hundredths. Now I think you would realize or you would agree with me that 5 out of 10 is 1/2, right? And 50 out of 100 also is half. So they still have the same value. You didn't change its value by putting that 0 after the 5. All we have now is we've shown this number through the hundredths place, just like this number shows through the hundredths place. And now I can add them together, starting in the right column. 2 plus 0 is 2. 8 plus 5 is 13. I'll put the 3 here, but I can't put the 1 over here because I need that space for when I add this column. So I'm going to carry the 1 over this next column here. Now, the decimal point comes straight down into our answer. So now here I have 1, 5, and 3 that get added together. 1 and 5 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. My answer is 9.32. Okay? Now, we do the same thing with when we're subtracting. We need to make sure we line up the decimal points. So I have 9.06 minus 5.4. Hey, by the way, the answer to an addition problem is called the sum. The answer to a subtraction problem is called the difference. And there I wrote it in cursive for you, for all you fancy kids that like to see the cursive writing. The answer to a subtraction problem is called the difference. So I'm going to stack these numbers, 9.06 minus 5.4. And again, we need to make sure we line up the decimal points, which I have done here. Now, just like in the last example, you'll see this second number shows through the tenths place, but then there isn't anything in the hundredths place. Up here we have the hundredths place, so I'm going to add a 0 here in this blank space. And now I'm going to subtract. 6 minus 0 is 6. 0 minus 4, well, that would give us a negative value. We don't want that to happen when we're subtracting, because I can see that top number is larger than the bottom. I shouldn't get a negative value. So I need to do some regrouping. This 9, I can make it an 8, and then I can bring that 1 that I borrowed from there and shift it over here and add 10 here. So 10 minus 4 is 6. Here's my decimal point. And then 8 minus 5 is 3. 3.66 is what I get when I subtract those. What's nice about these problems is you can always check your answer when you're done. Here, for example, if I take 3.66 plus 5.40, it should total 9.06. You could try that on your own, but it does. It does total 9.06. So the difference between 9.06 and 5.4 is 3.66. All right, now I have another subtraction problem over here, but now I have 13. It's a whole number, minus 4.64. The 4 here is in the ones place. It's the whole value. The 6400ths is your decimal portion of that number. If I want to line up the decimal points, I need to know where the decimal point is here. Mrs. Weiss, she was talking about the metric system and where is the decimal point when you have a whole number. Well, it's at the end of the number. So 13 is really 13.0000. You can put as many zeros there as you wish. But we're going to subtract here. So I have 13. Here's my decimal point. And then minus 4.64. As you can see, though, I need to show some digits here in the tenths and hundredths places. So I'll put zeros in there. And now I can subtract this. These zeros are too small to subtract the 6 and the 4. So let's take the 3. Now, you can take the 3 and make it a 2. But then you're going to have to do some more regrouping later because 2 minus 4 is a problem. So I think it's easier just to take 13 and make it 12. You can do that, Mr. Wyatt? Yes, you can. I just made that 12, and now that makes this 10. And then I'll turn this 10 into a 9, which makes this 10. And now I should be able to subtract everything. 10 minus 4 is 6. 9 minus 6 is 3. Here is my decimal point. And then 12 minus 4, we can do that as one problem. 12 minus 4 is 8. And I get a difference of 8.36. If you add that to 4.64, it does total 13.00, or just 13. Okay, easy peasy, piece of cake, right? All right, so now multiplying. The rules are a little bit different with multiplying, because now with multiplying, you do not line up the decimal points. I mean, sometimes you will, if they have the same number of digits in the decimals, but you don't have to line up the decimal points. Just stack them the way, ignore the decimal points. So when I see 5.8 times 4, I'm going to write 5.8 times 4. If this were an adding or subtracting problem, I would want the 4 to be underneath the 5 because those are whole amounts. And I'd have 4.0 here. But when multiplying, I don't have to worry about that. I'll just put times 4 here. And now I'm going to multiply these. And ignore the decimal point. 4 times 8 is 32. I'll put the 2 here. And the 3, I can't put it here. I need to save this space for my next multiplying problem. So I'll put the 3 up here. I'll just carry it up here. And now 4 times 5, that's 20. And then we add the 3 onto it, which is 23. So now I need to figure out where the decimal point goes. And to do that, look at the original problem. We have only one digit here that's in the decimals. Another way of saying that is the decimal point here is in one space. Okay, so I'm going to come down here to the product line. That's the answer to a multiplication problem, is called the product. And I have to move the decimal point in one space. So I'll move in one space here. And I get 23.2 for my answer. Now, it's very smart to figure out before we move on if our answer is reasonable or not. If you look at the original problem, 5.8 is close to 6. Is 6 times 4, well, 6 times 4 is 24. Is our answer reasonably close to 24? 23.2 is very close to 24. So my answer is reasonable. If I had put the decimal point here and said 232 for an answer, well, that's nowhere near 24. So I would know that I need to go back and do it again because I clearly made a mistake. Okay. All right, let's look at one more. I won't do this one over here just because of time. I want to do a couple word problems too. I have 9.06 times 3.2. Now again, if I were adding, I would want to line up the decimal points, but I'm multiplying. So I'm just going to take 9.06 times 3.2. I'm not even concerned about lining up the decimal points. Frankly, I didn't even worry about lining up my columns. I mean, where's the 3? It's sitting between the 9 and the 0. It's like it's lined up with that decimal point. And the 2, it's like in between that 0 and the 6. I went all willy-nilly. I wasn't even concerned about neatness here or anything. And you know what? It's multiplying. I don't have to worry about lining anything up. Okay, so it's going to be fine. And now I'm going to ignore the decimal points. 2 times 6 is 12. I'll carry the 1 here over this column. 2 times 0, anything times 0 is 0. Add 1 and we get 1. 2 times 9 is 18. Now I'm done multiplying by 2. Now when I shift over one space, I need to do the same thing down here, shift over one space. So here I'm going to put a 0. You could put an X there too if you wanted to. And now I'll start multiplying by 3. 3 times 6, 18. I'll put the 8 here. And again, I'll carry the 1 over here. 3 times 0, well, that's 0. Add 1, and we get 1. And then 3 times 9 is 27. The 7 goes here, the 2 goes here. I am being careful to line up my columns down here. 2 and 0 is 2. 1 and 8 is 9. 8 and 1 is 9. 1 and 7 is 8. And then I have the 2 here. And now the big question, where does my decimal point go? Well, I'll go back to the original problem. I have 2 decimal places here. It's in 2 spaces. And I'm in 1 space here. I have 1 decimal place here. And so I have a total here of 3 decimal places. And so I'm going to go in 1, 2, 3 spaces here as well. And I get my answer, 28.992, or 28 and 992 thousandths. Is my answer reasonable? If I had estimated 9 times 3, that's 27. Is my answer close to 27? Yup-a-doodles, it is. So I like my answer. It's very reasonable. The decimal point must be in the right place. I think I have time for like one word problem. So I'm going to go back here, a slide. There's LeBron James when he played for Cleveland. A basketball hoop is 46 centimeters across. That's its diameter. The distance across a circle is called diameter. A basketball is 24.28 centimeters across. What is the difference between these measurements? And I'm going to move me over here so we can see this a little better. And so if I'm looking for the difference, that means I'm subtracting. So I'll take the diameter of the hoop, 46. Where is the decimal point? Well, again, the decimal point, if it's not shown, it must be at the end of the number. And then I'll subtract from that 24.28. Now, remember, we have to line up the decimal points whenever we add or subtract. I have them lined up here. 46 was a whole number, so the decimal point was at the end. So now I need to fill in these 2 spaces, the tenths and hundredths places. I'll fill them with zeros. And now I'll go ahead and subtract. I cannot subtract 8 or 2 from the zeros. That would give me negative values. I don't want that. So instead, I'm going to regroup. Let's make this 6 a 5. This becomes 10. Let's make 10 into 9, and this becomes 10. And now I can subtract. 10 minus 8 is 2. 9 minus 2 is 7. Here is my decimal point. 5 minus 4 is 1. 4 minus 2 is 2. So the difference between these measurements is 21.72. It is a word problem, so I will label it centimeters. I had 15 minutes to finish this lesson, and I did it in 14 minutes, 45 seconds. I just got it in. All right, everybody, so you can go ahead and do today's assignment, and I will see you later.